This is a Conrad alert. Civil defense information will be broadcast at 6:40.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Y2K, how can we prepare?
Stop a few of their machines and radios. Throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We are fighting for our lives. My family must survive.
Over 5 years, 1,000 gallons of gas, air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada. Streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, and Odyssey. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I'm Toolman Tim. Today is July the 4th, 2024, and this is episode 461 of Workshop Radio. First thing I need to say out there is happy birthday to the country that has won the last 30 Stanley Cups. I hope you're having a great Independence Day. I hope you are practicing independent autonomy. Wait, that's anyway, that's double. But anyway, I hope you're practicing your independence, your anarchy, the non-aggression principle, and I hope you're lighting off some serious fireworks, barbecue, and having something to drink, whatever it happens to be. All right, so first off, we put the rules to live by into the random number generator, and this week we got rule number 5. And rule number 5 is simple, and it is something that I have definitely taken to heart my life. I've definitely taken to heart recently again, but it is learn how to learn and always be learning. I'm going to shout out to Carson over on the vertical stream as well, but I've been asked many times, people, well, anyway, I get talking. One of my pet peeves is not everybody has to go to college. Not everybody should go to college. And then they're like, but Tim, you went to university. You spent $40,000 on a religion degree that you then went and worked at Dairy Queen afterwards. Okay, so why shouldn't I do it? Well, that should be obvious enough. But either way, probably the biggest thing that I ended up taking from my university education was learning how to learn. Now, did I know how to learn beforehand? I most certainly did. Would I have learned it on my own? Absolutely. But those 4 years definitely kind of supercharged my learning capabilities, I guess. So whatever it takes in life, if you want to be successful at whatever you want to do, and that can be anything. It doesn't have to be a college degree. It doesn't have to be a university degree. As a matter of fact, it probably shouldn't be for most folks anymore. A good trade or something like that is not a bad thing at all. But when it comes down to it, if there is one skill that every individual, male, female, young or old, should master, it's how to learn. Because if you learn how to properly learn, you can do absolutely friggin' anything into your life. So get out there, learn. Rule number 5, learn how to learn and always be learning. Yeah, that probably could be 2 rules, but I decided it's going to be 1. Let's see what fellow delinquents we have in the chat this evening. I see Byron Roberts. Great to have you, sir. Digger, great to have you. Ryan Pippin says he has all his fingers still. It's excellent to hear. Hey, Mike from Snail Creek Homestead. Great to see you. And Yozik, oh my God, I'm on live. Great to have you, brother. Always love having you guys in here. So we got a new name for a new segment. If we have time, we are going to have another new segment, but we will see where that leads. I don't want to tease something that isn't going to happen. But either way, if you guys noticed, I don't know if you did, and a lot of people maybe don't stick around to the outro, but I had these wonderful intros and outros designed by Rebecca from Red Flyer Media. Did a wonderful job. And she used, I don't even know the name of the program, but she has all the licenses for it, and it was just awesome. Everything worked great. She's never had a problem in 20 years using this program. She's used it back to CD-ROM times. And the music we picked for my outro ended up getting flagged every single week with YouTube for a copyright, not a strike, but a copyright flag. So we kept submitting the license to prove that we had the right to use the music, and they kept removing it, but every single week it got flagged. So we decided to go back to the drawing board with it, and we remusiced the outro, and we picked something from the YouTube music library, and no problem since. So not a big change, but I hope you like the new things. And I know I've showed it out one other time, but I need to show it out again. But Jake from Ravenwood Acres, he sent me this, that one right there, that really cool civil defense poster behind me. I finally got a nice frame for it. It's much larger than it looks on screen. And I just recently got a light to actually shine, to give it a little definition on the live stream. So I hope you guys enjoy that. And Carson over on the vertical says, I am a commodity relocation engineer. Commodity broker. I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to guess live on what that may or may not be, but either way, good for you. All right, so here we go. So first off, we are going to dive into the Stranger Than Fiction. That is the new segments of the week that I think hopefully jump up and grab us as preppers, something we can learn from, or something we can laugh at, whatever it ends up needing to be. So here we go, guys. Let's bring this up. We've got the first story of the week. This one is kind of hilarious. And without, I don't want this to ever to become like the Negative Nancy show or anything like that. But this one is just a surefire way or illustration of, this is a surefire illustration of the government wanting to shoot itself in the foot. If you want to see a society collapse or you want to see an economy fail, simple as that. This is what it does. So here you go. Are you ready? And I double checked to make sure this was not satire, but this actually came from the Associated Press. Here we go. Denmark to tax farmers for greenhouse gases emitted by their livestock beginning in 2030. So they're going to tax them based on the methane that their shit releases. Boy, I tell you. Here we go. Denmark will tax livestock farmers for the greenhouse gases emitted by their cows, sheep, and pigs from 2030. The first country in the world to do so, as it targets a major source of methane emissions, one of the most potent gases contributing to global warming. Okay, so if anybody wants to know, we're going to get into how much gas a cow actually releases. And if anybody thinks this is a good idea, feel free to put your hand up in the comments and we'll boot you. I'm just kidding. But a country can never, ever tax itself into prosperity. And if you want to see what's going to happen, it won't be good. But here we go. As of 2030, Danish livestock farmers are going to tax $43 per ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. The tax will increase to $108 by 2035. However, because of tax deductions, they're going to play government, guess which hand it's under, 3-card Monty, that kind of stuff. So they're going to give you money, take money away, give you money, take money away, just like they do in Canada with our carbon tax levy right now. They're like, but look, we're giving so much money to the families, but it's actually costing them money. So in case you're wondering, I looked it up to do the math. The average cow releases around 200 pounds of methane / carbon dioxide every single year. It takes about 10 cows to equal a ton per year. So you're looking at $4.30 to almost $11 extra per cow starting out. And once the floodgates open, it's never going to be good. So let's just hope we don't end up doing that. But we keep joking. They keep making fun of us for the, our cows' farts are going to end the world. Well, here we go. Let's see if we can stop people from actually contributing to the economy. This is, if you want to squeeze the little, and I'm sorry, I'm not under any pretense that most farmers are small anymore, because they're not. In order for a farm or a rancher to stay afloat nowadays, they almost have to be large scale. But if you want to keep squeezing them, look what'll happen. It ain't going to be good. So anyway, let's move on from that stupid one. And Carson, I just clued into which Carson this was. Commodity relocation engineer is a fancy way of saying truck driver. There we go. Appreciate it. All right, so there we go. Let's move on. You guys been following this at all? This is just something to be aware of. I wouldn't say negative or scary. Just, it looks like the Hurricane Beryl, I don't know, is probably not going to hit the mainland U.S. And if it does, it's just going to nick Texas. But they had a hell of a time in Jamaica last night or 2 nights ago, I believe. So here it is. There's a map here we can show. This kind of shows it tracking in through, what would that be, northeast Mexico, I guess you would call it, and possibly into the southern tip of Texas. So if you're wondering, the National Hurricane Center in Miami said the center of the hurricane was expected to move past the Cayman Islands on Thursday before hitting the Yucatan Peninsula early Friday. It's expected to emerge in the Gulf of Mexico on Friday night. Weakening is forecast during the next day or two. So Learned something new researching this show tonight. A hurricane is considered major when it's category 3 or higher, with winds of at least 111 miles per hour. I'm not sure why they didn't go with 110, but 111. So as of Thursday morning, it's a category 3 with 120 mile an hour winds. Beryl was 50 miles southwest of the Grand Cayman Island. You don't need to worry about that. So the part that I wanted to touch on is right here. Will Hurricane Beryl, and I'm probably completely pronouncing it wrong, actually hit Texas? Depends a lot on the strength as it goes over land. Growing up in Nova Scotia, and that's actually where I'm heading in a couple of days, we rarely ever got full strength hurricanes. I think the last one that I saw was like September 2003, 2004, Hurricane Juan. And the main reason is that it has to travel so far across land or upland. And of course, the one thing that will kill a storm fastest is when it crosses over land. So one key factor will be how wind shear affects Beryl. The flow of the wind pattern as it enters the Gulf is going to be more hostile. The atmospheric conditions are going to be ripping it apart. Another factor will be the area of high pressure in Texas that's been acting as a barrier, but is forecast to move this week. So here it is. Should folks in Texas be concerned? Maybe not concerned, just aware. Depending on where it's situated, it could track towards Tampico, Mexico, the area where the tropical storms have tracked so far this season. However, if this tracks a little further to the north, there'd be nothing of a kind of nudge. So there is a little exposure to the Texas coastline. The Hurricane Center urged people in southern Texas to monitor its progress. So this is the type of thing that folks who want to be prepared in that area of the country should just be aware of. I mean, when you look at that right there, you've got, just the green kind of outer edge of that storm, just probably cutting across the southern tip of Texas there. So just something to be aware of. I wouldn't be super concerned. Most of us, if we're prudent at all, we probably have bug out plans in place, and folks in Texas are rather, especially that area, rather hardened to the idea of hurricanes coming through. So just keep your head up, folks. All right. Hunter says over on Twitch, good to have you, Hunter. How much weight in tar and feathers do you think it would take being sent to the government for it to be considered domestic terror? Well, let's see. We could flip it around and say, how many dollars in taxation on livestock, food that folks need to be taxed before it's considered theft? I'm just saying. So moving right along. And I forgot, I try to cite my sources. I cited my source on the first one. That was the Associated Press. And my God, where did that come from? This last one about the hurricane came from CBS News. So Jason Stoner says, hey, brother, come hook my home up to be sufficient. Anytime. Do what we can. We can do our best for sure. And Pippin says, Florida man puts hurricane keg back. Yep. In Nova Scotia, we always had storm chips. That's about all we did. Everybody would run to the store before a blizzard would come, and everybody'd buy their milk and their chips and maybe get Chinese takeout food. But yeah. I love that name, by the way, Jason Stoner. Good to see you. And Hunter says, I think 2,000 pounds seems like a good starting point. That kind of shit makes people stand up and take notice. One of my favorite all-time collapse, I don't know if you can call it apocalyptic, but if you guys have ever seen the TV show Jericho, well, it was canceled by CBS after its first season, and it ended with a cliffhanger where Jake Green says nuts into the radio, and that has something to do with a German phrasing of whatever. Anyway, they cancel the show on a cliffhanger. Fans get nasty. They send pallets load of nuts to the CBS studios, and they bring it back around. So there you go. Anyhow. All right. So those are negative stories. The next one's a bit more positive. You guys get to hear about electric vehicles again. I love me electric. No, not really. I'm agnostic on the whole electric vehicle thing. So Brian Roberts says that was a good show. If anybody else out there enjoyed Jericho, I'd love to hear. I'd love to. Becky and I try to go back and rewatch it once a year. One of our all-time favorites. It was by far the best. I'm just going to call it apocalyptic. It kind of was, but it was by far the best apocalyptic show that ever was on over the air free cable. I mean, they were limited on what they could do as far as violence and sex and, vulgar language, all of that stuff. So they had to be very much like, okay, hang back a little. Kind of reminded me of probably the other good one that I really enjoy is the 1994 miniseries from CBS, again, on The Stand, Stephen King's The Stand. That's one of my favorites. But anyway, Jericho, awesome show. If you've never watched it, do yourself a favor and go watch it. It's getting a little dated, but man, that had a fire soundtrack back in the day for being, again, free TV. Okay, here's the next story. This one comes from autoevolution.com, and this should be right up a prepper's alley. Now, before you throw the baby out with the bathwater, well, we might do that yet anyway, there are some serious limitations to what you're seeing right here. And for anybody on the audio, and it definitely seems that we're getting more and more video, and people from the audio are moving over to the video platforms like crazy. So, but if you are one of the ones on the audio only, yes, I'm aware that solar is not going to do a ton for an electric vehicle, but hang in there. Something is better than nothing when everybody else has nothing. Here we go. GoSun finally pulled it off. Back up for a second, Tim. I'm going to warn you, this article, we're not going to read it all by any means, but it is so overly pro-electric vehicle and so optimistic. It's almost so sweet it makes your teeth hurt. I don't agree with the attitude of the writer, but it's a pretty cool piece of tech that could be awesome on a bug-out vehicle, could be great for preppers. Here we go. GoSun finally pulled it off. We now have a solar charger for our EVs everywhere we park. Okay, here we are. Honestly, and this is the writer writing, not me. Honestly, I know quite a few EV drivers who have found themselves in a situation similar to this one day, biting their fingernails as they watch the battery gauge drop mile after mile because they forgot to recharge the car day or night before. Day or night. Yeah, before. I read that right. It was just written funny. All right. So here's the thing. And I've talked about this before. Long-term collapse scenario. You're going to run out of gas. You're going to run, you're going to run out of propane. Natural gas, I'm a huge proponent of natural gas, but eventually it's going to run out as well. And then what do? Horses, walking, man-powered bicycles. But that are going to be able to keep moving around a bit are going to be electric vehicles with solar panels. Now, you're not going to go 400 miles a day on solar, at least not any way, shape, or form the technology that exists right now. But again, what do they say? I don't know. A man with a gun is going to beat everybody in a knife fight. Maybe. I don't know. But here we are. So, yes, people, we finally have a device that will recharge your EV. Hopefully, no matter the make and model, and does so no matter where you are, as long as there's sunlight. GoSun's EV solar charger is there to provide you with up to, you ready for this, folks? It's not a lot, 30 extra miles. For those in freedom units or non-freedom units, in Kanakastanian units, that's 48 kilometers of driving each day just off the power of the sun alone. Now, that's not going to get me from here to Tennessee, but 30 miles is going to get most people to and from work. It's going to get most people to and from a grocery store. It's going to get people maybe at least a little ways out of Dodge if they need to leave somewhere. Yes. So there, hey, Fish and Charlie, good to see you. So here's, yes, I want to, let's talk about this because I don't disagree. So Fish and Charlie, I forgot to share the article over on the vertical feed for you guys. There you go. So you were 100% correct. 30 miles. Oh, I misread. Let me back up. I need to apologize to Fish and Charlie. What a great name, actually. It says 30 miles is a lot when the grid is down. Correct. I misread that as it's not a lot. Yes, 30 miles is a ton. So, yeah, I'm cool with it. I love the idea of, again, 2 is 1, 1 is none, 3 is a guarantee. I love the idea of having eggs in different baskets. We have 2 big-ass Ram 1500 gas guzzling vehicles that we love. And we still talk today that we'd love to have an electric vehicle just because I'd love to diversify just a little bit. And yeah, totally dig it. So here's my folks here. Pippin says, my 20-year-old Honda gets almost 30 miles per gallon. And Pippin says was probably less than that charger. Oh, 100%. We'll get to the cost of this. 1 gallon of gas. I get it. And I'm not saying I'm not going to get rid of my 12 5-gallon gas cans out there. And tomorrow, if I could store up 100 gallons of gas, well, let's put it this way. Even when we end up buying an acreage outside of town, I will have bulk gasoline storage on my property, without a doubt, because I am going to go with the convenience of gas through and through and through. But I digress. There are lots of preppers out there who have looked at making their own biodiesel, making their own fuel in different ways. And I love that idea. That's a lot of work. If you had something like this, again, 30 miles is better than nothing. Now, that might be a year or two down the road. I don't look at this as the be all and end all of technology. I look at it as another arrow in the quiver. What are you, 203, Tim? Like, what is this, an 1800 show? But anyway, what I'm saying is I see this as yet another tool that we could play with and have fun with. And the design is actually kind of cool. Here we go. What do we got? Yes, people, we have a device. Yep. So 30 extra miles. Okay. The price is high, but it's not as bad as maybe I thought, but we're going to keep going. As what we're in for this time around, GoSun seems to have surpassed itself in every way. Having raised $1 million in orders for this charging solution, it's clearly on its way to popping up on people's cars as early as 2025. And again, I don't like taxes. I don't like the government, but if they offer you a rebate, say, yes, please, I'll take my stolen tax dollars back. Be sure to check the local rebates and government incentives, as they may be eligible for 30% tax increase, tax credit. But the charger's true magic and power are only seen once you're able to open its proverbial wings. If there's space and the neighborhood allows for it, you can lift the top half of the shell to reveal a series of other panels that lie hidden from view. Unravel them onto your car and watch 1,200 watts of solar cells stick it to the man. So I want to talk about the design a little bit, because this is what I really like. And the pictures don't do it justice per se, but if you can see this, so picture this, folks. You've got what looks like a roof rack on the top. It looks like maybe we're going to estimate roughly a 3x4 plastic panel on top. And the top has a solar panel on it, which you could use to trickle charge some things, not a ton, but it's always there. It's similar to me putting that little solar panel on the back of my tonneau cover on the back of the truck. I like that. But then you can park and you can look like a total idiot. No, I'm just kidding. But you can drive during the night. And then during the day, you could sleep, fold out all these panels, and slowly drink in the electric. Not great, but still a pretty cool invention. And I'm going to keep beating this dead horse. I know not everybody loves electric vehicles, and I'm never going to tell anybody to get one. But I just hope that us in the prepper sphere can look at EVs as another tool in the toolbox. And if you don't want one, great. Don't have to. But I just think an open mind on some of this stuff is kind of cool. I just don't want to be forced to have to do it ever. Enough said. Moving on. All right. Hey, look, there's my daughter, Liv. Good to see you, sweetie. And let's see. We got Hunter says Revolution is an American post-apocalyptic science fiction television series that ran from September to May 2012 to 2014 when it was canceled by NBC. I was very excited for Revolution when it first came out. I wouldn't say I was disappointed. It just didn't jump up and grab me like I wanted it to. What else we got? Pippin says, side note, Tim, the Hellcat superchargers would fit on your 5.7 Hemi engines. Just a thought. I don't know if I've said this publicly yet, and this was a huge oversight on Becky and I, but these two new Rams we got did not come with the Hemis. Our old one had a Hemi. This one has the, I'm not even sure what you call it, but it's basically a glorified Dodge Grand Caravan engine in it. Great for fuel. Has all the pickup I needed on the highway, but it ain't my Hemi. Let's put it that way. Mike says DeWalt car. I got no problem with a DeWalt car. And I don't know. I mean, if they can get charging fast enough, then I guess we don't need modular batteries. But I keep thinking, why sit somewhere if you could swap batteries out? I don't know. If they can get it down to it's got to be it's got to be under 10 minutes, guys. If I can get a full charge to give me 300 to 400 miles in 10 minutes, I'm happy. I don't want to be that guy that's stuck sitting for 2 hours. Well, okay, an hour. I'm going to exaggerate here, but I don't mean to. But, they put in a bunch of Tesla superchargers near where our daycare is. And every day I go by and I see Teslas parked there. And you see people getting out, going for a walk. And, okay, maybe they want to rethink the way they do road trips, but I don't. I want to cover 10 hours worth of driving in 10 hours and 10 minutes. That's what I want to do. And that's how I do it. We have to stop. I don't want to have to wait for a charge. I want to fill it up and go. So there we go. All right, moving along. This one's a cool article next. This comes out of Australia. And I have certain search terms that I do every week looking for interesting articles. And of course, one is just prepper news that I type into Google and a few other spots. And this one came up this week. This comes from ABC Australia News, and it's Doomsday Prepper among support groups fielding increased calls for cost of living help. This is a pretty cool dude. He runs a prepper store, but this is a fairly mainstream article that deals with the importance of having your finances right, and also how prepping can make life better for you, even if the shit doesn't hit the proverbial fan. So let's gloss over this real quick. This guy's name is Trevor Andre, and they said his phone starts to ring sometime after dinner, and he knows what it's going to be about. On the other end of the line, invariably, is a parent or carer, and they will be struggling financially speaking. It's usually 8 or 8:30 at night, he said. It'll be a parent that's absolutely panicked out of their mind. You can tell they're calling and the kids have just gone to bed. They just need help. Mr. Andre laughingly calls himself Australia's most famous doomsday prepper, but these calls aren't about zombies or the end of days. He says they're about affording your next tank of fuel, the next rent cycle, or even the next night's meals. I was talking about this today with my son-in-law, and I was asking him something. I can't remember what it was, but I said, do you know how to do this? He goes, oh yeah, I had to do it before. And I looked at him and I said, yep. I said, I know what that's like, because we had to learn all of that stuff at one time. When you're broke ass poor, when you grow up without a lot. Well, no, I grew up with a bunch. I did okay. Shut up, Tim. I had a good family life being brought up. But when Becky and I got married and we had a bunch of kids, we just didn't have a pot to piss in. And so we had to learn how to do a lot of this stuff ourselves. And my son-in-law, Kurt, same way, man. He will surprise you with what he can do. And I'm proud of him for that. So, but that's what it is. People come through these hard times, and that's how we learn how to do more for ourselves. But I feel this parent's pain because Becky and I were there many times over the years. And so Mr. Andre anyway, he says, if it wasn't for the fact that my cupboards are always full of things I buy on bargains, I too would have been stuffed. And I believe that's Australian for up the shit creek without a paddle. At his farm in Western Victoria, he shoots and butchers his own meat in addition to preserving locally grown and sometimes bartered for fruit and veggies. He's something of a nomadic character who's equally obsessed with community. From driving, mining, and solar panel installation to working as a tour guide and running an online doomsday prepping store, Mr. Andre is a jack of all trades. So having all the extra food on hand helps him mitigate when the bumps in the road come from life. I like that. And I was discussing this with some folks the other day, and how at one point I think I was talking to my daughters about this, and at one point the social circle of home, or the social circle of a community, was the community church, because people didn't travel that far. And then people started traveling further, and people got irreligious, non-religious, whatever you want to call it. And so they lost that support network, or it's moved. And people, I think, especially this next generation, are really looking for some sort of support circle. And people are turning to prepping as that. And what I love is this dude. I mean, the dude has a smile on his face for every picture. He's not a doom and gloom doomsday prepper by any means. He's happy with what he does, and he wants to help other people. He believes in community, and simple as that, he wants to teach what he has. There's no gatekeeping in what he's doing. And there's all the lone wolf folks out there. And then there's us that like to talk about community. And then some folks are like, community is important, but it really isn't to them. And I get it. I'm not great at it. I try, but I'm not great. But this dude is living it. He is reaching out to his community. And, In the words of Stephen Harris from many years ago, it's easier to feed your neighbor than it is to shoot them. And I would say better than that, it's easier to teach your neighbors how to feed themselves than to feed them or to shoot them. So when it comes down to that, anytime we can teach something to somebody else with a smile on our face, enjoy our passion in life, hell yeah, that's what prepping's all about, my brothers and sisters. I love it. Love it. All right. His survival, bartering, and prepping skills have helped him get by, and it's what people are turning to him for. These are the skills people need to survive, he says. What they're calling and asking me about. All the simple stuff, guys, that folks just don't know anymore. We're in an economic crisis at the moment, and that's what people are calling me and prepping for. To learn how to stock a pantry, how to get your food and veggies ready to just survive. You know, I hope it doesn't come down to that, but holy shit, that is awesome. I mean, this dude, people don't know him from Adam, and they're still calling him and saying, hey, you seem to have it together. What have you done? And, you know, the old proverb, the second best time to plant a tree is today. Because, of course, you know, the first best time to start prepping and filling your pantry was a year ago, 6 years ago. But guess what? If you start today and you add 2 cans to your pantry, well, you've got 2 cans more than you would have had if you didn't. So anyway, be this dude, guys. Smile, share, learn community, and do all we can. All right. Next, and I need to get some new, I'm going to make some more stingers for you guys because we've added a bunch of different segments, so we don't have some for some of these yet. But here we are, the Prepper Files. So this is a fun one. This is where we reach back into this date in history and we talk about something interesting that happened. And I can't really think of anything interesting that happened on July 4th. So I think we'll just skip that, but no. Anyway. Fireworks. What doesn't go together with prepping other than fireworks? Now, I mean, explosions and gunpowder and all of the works. And I thought, how did fireworks become such a tradition for July 4th? I almost said July 1st. Yes, I know Canada Day. We co-opt a lot of American traditions. I also learned something that Independence Day was almost July 2nd, but it took them a couple of days to work out the kinks, and it turned out to be July 4th. So here we go. Fireworks are tradition for Americans. How come? Well, John Adams, if you guys know him, he wrote in a letter to his wife, Abigail, and this is really, I like it. He says, I'm apt to believe that it will be celebrated by succeeding generations as the great anniversary festival. It ought to be solemnized with pomp and parade, with shoes, games, sports. Here we go. This is the American part. Guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of this continent to the other, from this time forward forevermore. I like that. Man, everything they wrote in their diaries, in their journals, in their letters, everything read like a novel, didn't it? Or like a poem. So John Adams predicted it, and the next year, Philadelphia and a bunch of other cities followed suit. So Adams' hometown of Boston saw its own fireworks display that July 4th as Colonel Thomas Crafts of the Sons of Liberty, sounds like a bike gang, took the opportunity to set off fireworks and shells over Boston Common. In the years to come, various cities continued the tradition of celebrating independence, holding picnics, parades, speeches, fireworks, displays for the occasion, though Boston was the first to designate July 4th as an official holiday. And in some further reading, they said Philadelphia, on 1777, so the next year, was the first one to do official fireworks for Independence Day. And it's kind of funny because when John Adams writes to his wife, he actually refers to July 2nd as the date of independence, but that changed a few days a year later. So it would have been interesting if it was July 1st Canada Day, July 2nd Independence Day, but instead we have 3 days in between. So it gives us time to sober up and start drinking again, right? So there we are. All right. So I like that one. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Maybe you knew. I didn't, but I had to dig into it. All right. Next is paranormal prepping. And this is stories from the paranormal or something like that. You know, unsolved mysteries. I enjoy this stuff. You guys know if you've listened to me for any length of time that I get rather jazzed up about unexplained things. Do I believe them? Do I not? I don't know, but I sure as hell love talking about them. Do you guys remember that REM hit from the early 90s, What's the Frequency, Kenneth? I don't know if anybody does, but I bought REM Monster. I don't know if I should say I bought it, but I got REM Monster as a cassette from Columbia House. Was it like 15 cassettes for a penny? And I doubt I ever paid for The follow-up orders that I was supposed to, who knows? Most people didn't. We just stopped ordering. But anyway, so I often wondered what that saying was about. And a few years back, it turns out that saying had something to do with Dan Rather. And you're like, do you mean that Dan Rather? And I mean, rather than another Dan Rather? Yes, I mean that Dan Rather. That Dan Rather, the famous news anchor. Here's the story. I actually found out another little twist on that story later on. So we're going to talk about that because I watched a video last night and it piqued my interest. Remember that? Always be learning? Yeah. Anyway, this one, here it is. What's the frequency, Kenneth? It's about the mugging of Dan Rather. Yep, that Dan Rather. So he was walking. He left a play one evening. He was walking through New York City and two men started following him, kind of verbally accosting him. He ran away, went into the lobby of an apartment building, and the dude starts laying a beating on him, and he keeps hollering, Kenneth, what's the frequency? Kenneth, what's the frequency? As he kicked Rather. So, sounds like a mentally unstable individual. The case was solved. It remained unsolved for 11 years. When a dude stormed or attempted to storm NBC studios, he ended up getting kicked out, coming back with a rifle and shooting somebody and killing them. It's kind of sad. And it turned out this guy said that some guy named Kenneth was trying to beam signals into his brain. Now, if you leave it there, that's all there is to it. He was a crazy dude who followed Dan Rather, beat him up, and thought the government or Kenneth or somebody was beaming signals into his brain. All right. However, it goes on. And eventually, there's a dude, and I forgot to write down his last name. First name was Kenneth. And during this time, he figured out how to hack Russian satellite systems. And he was getting Russian television, Russian intelligence, that sort of thing. And he would not give the keys to the encryption to anyone else. He was a university professor. And so if you want to throw it on its head just a little bit, there's some belief that this dude who mugged Dan Rather thought that he was this Kenneth guy because they did look somewhat similar. And he was attempting to get the codes to figure out how they were cracking into the satellite. Now, do I think that's true? Probably not, to be honest. It's a fun thought experiment. You know, was this dude playing crazy and he was actually, you know, a KGB interceptor or something like that? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But if you often wondered what the frequency Kenneth is about, that's the story behind it. Enough said. All right. So let's move along, folks. Here we are.
He's dead. They're all dead. Everyone. You and I are in a dead world. And I'm glad it's dead. Cheap, honky-tonk of a world.
Coming up next is Workshop Wasteland. Workshop Wasteland is where we take a look at post-apocalyptic, dystopian, fiction, cinema, music, movies, books. Oh, man. It was a busy week. I didn't put a quarter of what I could have into this segment because I don't want this to ever be the thrust of the show, but it's kind of interesting as you're listening to hear some of this. I ran across a post-apocalyptic comic book that was great. I'm going to support it. They have a Patreon or something I saw just last night. Anyway, I didn't post a link for that because I could have went down a bunch of rabbit holes, but here we are. Filming has begun on the 28 Years Later movie. I'm excited about that. Really excited, actually. Jodie Comer is going to be starring in it, and they posted a, well, you can barely see the picture there, but a less than exciting photo. But they're in, the sets are built, costumes are put together, and they are filming. Enough said. Moving on. All right, A Quiet Place, a movie I have not seen yet. A Quiet Place Day One. I'm stoked. I'm a big fan of when they show how the collapse happens as opposed to, hey, here's a collapse moving right along and survive. That gets a little boring. I love when they show the actual kind of collapse. And this is a prequel, so it could be interesting. But either way, things bode well for apocalyptic cinema because after its second weekend, it topped out over $100 million. It actually did the most box office dollars of the trilogy so far. It made $53 or $56 million its opening weekend. So If you want to see a quiet movie about a lady and her cat, A Quiet Place Day One might just be the thing you want to see. Either way, can't wait to see it. It's probably going to be a couple of weeks before I get a chance to. But the reviews have been great. I think it had somewhere around an 86 on Rotten Tomatoes. Box office has been good. There is definitely a hunger for dystopian kind of stuff. And finally, chalk this up to, why did you share this with us, Tim? Because it made me laugh. Ken of Barbie fame, otherwise known as Ryan Gosling, and this comes from giantfreakingrobot.com, one of my favorite sites for post-apocalyptic kind of popular culture info, that kind of stuff. It's a cool, anyway, it's got the greatest URL ever. Ryan Gosling new zombie comedy gets the best title in years. Really, Tim? Well, you might add, what is that title? Well, I'm glad you asked. Ryan Gosling is on board to produce the wonderfully titled zombie comedy, I Used to Eat Brains, and Now I Eat Kale. Wah, wah. I'm not going to talk any more about that, but that title made me laugh. So I hope somebody else enjoys it as much as I was thinking of it. So there you go. All right. I see there was a comment down here I missed from my daughter, Liv. She says, I agree with that. And with overtime, I would assume that waiting for it to charge will take longer the older it gets. Yes, good point. And I think we're going back to the electric vehicles. Batteries are going to discharge. Technology is going to wear down. So absolutely. Don't disagree at all. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Oh, yeah. I used to eat brains and now I eat kale. Oh, boy. And moving right along.
Now you stay on the back roads, and you keep your gun handy. Our country is still full of thieving, murdering patriots.
Get ready for I Read It on the Internet. Thought that segment, stinger transition clip, was exceptionally pertinent to the July 4th holiday. Yes, definitely thieving, lying patriots. If you've never seen that film, oh man, Panic at Year Zero, probably my favorite prepper film of all time. So this brings us to I Read It on the Internet, where we go to our preppers on Reddit and we see what is tickling the old interwebs over there this week. And some pretty practical advice. You know, over on Reddit, they like to pretend like everybody over there is negative and each person talking is the only person to ever be positive. But it becomes its own little circle jerk over there quite a bit, because by far the most vocal folks in the Reddit subreddit are positive preppers, folks that are like, you know, let's do things to make our life better. So that's good. Here we are. This one comes from Remy for sure. Big Bic Energy. Made sure I enunciated very clearly on that. Big Bic Energy is something everyone should have. You might ask, what is that, Tim? Well, people always talking about matches or their flint and steel. Seriously, folks, bring a freaking Bic lighter. Oh, I love that. I love hearing that. Go nuts. Bring 3 if you want. They're cheap, fairly indestructible, and last a long time. Even if you're a smoker, which I am, and I only end up buying like 3 to 4 a year. For someone who doesn't smoke, a single Bic lighter would last literally years. It's not like you're going to be lighting a fire in a torrential downpour with stupid water windproof matches either anyways. Work smarter, not harder, folks. Go back to last week. You want to know the easiest way to do something? Hire a lazy person to do it. And again, you know, you will hear me beat this drum to death, but here we are. Why would you struggle trying to rub 2 sticks together if you could light something with a Bic lighter, right? You know, oh, real preppers don't get insurance. Real preppers don't get roadside assistance. Well, guess what? 2 weeks ago, my son was driving up to Lloydminster to the daycare to help us. His car died on the side of the road. We had a few options. We weighed him real quick. And Becky's like, wait, we have roadside assistance. So guess what? 1 quick phone call and what would have been a $400 tow truck drive was taken care of while we worked. Didn't have to worry about it 1 iota. So again, be prepared. All right. Big Bic Energy. Why you should have a bunch of Bic lighters on hand. This one comes from Level Coast. They said, that whole stack of Bic lighters you see at the gas station is cheap, cheap, cheap. I added those extra 2 cheaps on Amazon. And it comes in a sealed box. I bought one 7 years ago. Lots of things are smoked and lit on fire at my house. Friends walk off with them. I'm not even close to being out of lighters. Buy like 3 boxes. Your lighter prep is done. $150, 150 Bic lighters. Done, done, done. I like that. Keep going here. And there's one more comment I wanted to touch on. This one comes from Golden Meow 1. I do the same thing. I'm off grid. I have a sauna that I have to light 4 to 5 times a week. I'm lighting multiple fires per day in the winter. I buy the cheap ass brand on Amazon. It's 100 lighters for $16. I put this quote in here, or this comment, because I haven't seen them that cheap, but holy shit, if I can get 100 lighters for $16, the box lasts me a couple of years. I've never had one not work. They just go missing or borrowed or drop between the car seats or something. And they're easy to see how much fuel you got remaining. I like it. $16, 16 bucks, 100 lighters. Why not? You can give them away. You could sell them. You could barter them. And again, they're dirt cheap. What do they say? The 2 things that are stolen the most, a Bic lighter and a Bic pen. Well, you might as well have a bunch of them because they're going to be worth their weight in gold. Hey, Lone Canadian. He says, Bic lighters will drain and leak. Need to be checked at least once a year. So I dropped in completely unexpected to see Lone Canadian the other day. And he wasn't there, but his wonderful wife was. And I had a great conversation with her. And if she's listening, it was wonderful chatting with her the other day. And Lone Canadian, you and I will get together before too much longer, once I get back from Nova Scotia. But it's good to see you in here. And yes, that's great. I mean, anything that we have stored up long-term for multiple years should be checked once a year. But that's good, very good advice right there. I love it. All right. And there was enough in Reddit this week that we decided we we're going to do 2 we, the royal we. Yeah, Tim, the royal we. Number 2, why not buy a goat? That's not the title. That's the name of the person. Here we go. What do you think? What would your average person do if the power stayed out? I like this quite a bit. What do you think your average person would do if the power unexpectedly went out and stayed out? Kind of like that movie I talk about, The Trigger Effect, where the power just goes out and nobody knows why. People lose their collective mind. Anyway, what would be the reaction after a week, after 2 weeks, after 6 months? At what point do you think people would panic? Would they leave? Would they break out granddad's hunting rifle, burn the house down trying to make coffee, loot the nearest CVS? To make it a fair thought exercise, let's say a terrorist attack took out the grid for the whole eastern coast of the U.S. Backup batteries on cell towers, 3 days. Water in most areas keep flowing for about the same time. Due to the extent of the damage, millions of people are out of power, say for 4 months minimum. I'd assume the government would ship in supplies, but that's a lot of people, and we all know how well that'd probably work. So for the sake of discussion, let's say they go the Katrina route and set up shelters and supplies near major cities. What do you think Joe Normie would do, and when would he do it? Appaloosa Jones over on the vertical feed. Good to see you. That's the lady I had a conversation with the other day. I love that name. What a great name. All right, so you guys can throw it out there. What do you think? Now, again, the Reddit community came out fairly positive, and I enjoyed their take on it. So hear it with an open mind, folks. Average Lowen, I don't know what that is. Anyway, power was out for 12 days in a swath of Iowa. It was a natural disaster, so it was a bit different. But people actually came together, took care of their neighbors, volunteered to help with supplies. It was 90 degrees and humid too. It freaking sucked, but we're all right. I think a lot of people in this sub have skewed way of looking at things sometimes. Prepare for the worst, but don't always expect it. People are resilient, in Iowa at least. I guess they're decent. Mid-functionality says, yeah, people have been surviving difficult and horrific circumstances for tens of thousands of years together through, say it with me, just like Sesame Street, community, community. The sub leans hard toward people whose first inclination, the moment something out of the ordinary happens, or imagine it might happen, is every man to himself. Again, here is that, I don't know, it's an echo chamber where they think everybody in this subreddit is like this lone wolf person, yet everybody beats the drum of community. So just ignore that little side tangent. Stories like yours are really valuable and help bring people back down to earth. Here it is. Spot on. It's definitely misguided by a lot of ego and survivorship bias. There's a reason there are so many stories throughout history about people surviving alone in the woods, cut off from society. The reason that is because it's an anomaly, which makes it a compelling story. These stories are fascinating because they're about people who beat extreme odds to survive in isolation, compared to those living in a community whose survival is expected. Everyone likes to project themselves onto the anomalous character who beats all odds. But that's not a lot to tell about all the people who ended up alone in the woods and died. So in other words, community helps. That's what I'm getting at. Having a great community will help people weather most real or imagined storms, I gotta say. So there you go. I like it. I probably fall somewhere in the middle with the thoughts on that, but there you go. Pippin says, last lighters I grabbed were a 50 pack for $14. Ain't nothing wrong with that at all. I doubt I could get a case shipped from the U.S. to Canada. I probably have to have it shipped to my U.S. post office box and then carried across the border. I don't know. Anyway, something to think about. What do we got next, folks? Oh, we got a good one coming up next. This one's rather interesting. Let me share it with you.
Nothing like eating under an open sky, even if it is radioactive.
Dropping the dime on precious metals. All right, so this one, I don't know how this shit comes through my feed all the time. Well, I do, because the algorithm is spoon feeding me at this point. But I came across this one this week. And again, withhold judgment until entire story is told. So this is called a silver prepper bar. There's also a gold prepper bar. Now, if you will, imagine something the size of a credit card, something that will fit in your wallet, in between your credit cards, or in your money slot, or wherever you would like. Okay. It weighs 2.2 ounces, 65 grams, I think, or something along those lines. Now, if you can see the picture on the website, it's not bad there. It says, "In God We Trust," and it has, see if we can show you the breakdown. It is pre-scored so that you could break it up. It is roughly, like I said, 2.2 ounces of silver, which right now, if you bought it as silver rounds, would be around $85 US, I think, if I checked my math this morning. That's not bad. Now, the price is $159 if you buy one of these. You're like, holy shit, Tim. Same thing I said until I did a little more math and I got looking at this. So what I didn't do, I was not comparing apples to apples. I was comparing silver rounds, 1 ounce silver rounds, to this silver prepper bar. Now, check this out. It has 10 pieces at 1.5 grams, 4 pieces at 7 3/4 grams, and 5 pieces at 3 grams. Okay. Now, if you were to buy all of this silver in individual gram bars, what I could find right now was 1 gram in 10 gram bars. So if you bought it that way, the price is almost identical. I actually broke it down here. So if you go silver, okay, give me a second here. If you break it down in 1 in 10 gram denominations from silver, the price was around $125 to $130. So you're paying a little bit more for the convenience of having it all in one card. Now, I would not, okay, this is not a commercial. This is not an endorsement. I haven't even bought one yet. This is just, hey, this is kind of cool. It's something I saw. I'd like to share it with you guys so you can see it. It's at prepperbar.com. And I am going to order one so that I can test it out first to see. But it's an interesting concept. It's one of those things where you could break it down, make it divisible. I don't think it's that important with silver, but they do have a gold one as well. And it's out of stock right at the moment. And the gold price, it didn't even work for me this time. The gold price was even a little bit higher, or a little bit lower, actually. And guess what? Now the website doesn't want to work. The administrator has blocked your IP from accessing this website. It might be because I've had the window open for the last 3 or 4 hours since I did show prep. I don't know. Anyway, something interesting. We're going to move along from that. But I always like finding interesting precious metals products out there. So where do we go from here, folks? Well, I guess next is, so I said I wanted to do an interesting kind of take on technology. And so we were going to call it Technology with the Toolman or something along those lines. But instead, Daniel, who goes by, where is it here? I want to share this out. Daniel Almontree emailed me this week. So Daniel, if you're listening to this, I didn't want to send you an email because I wanted to surprise you in the live show, but what a great name. So something simple. So the new technology segment is going to be called the Faraday Cage. So we're going to reach inside the Faraday Cage and pull out some technology each and every week, or when I have a tech related story. And this week is something simple. It's been all over my feed. It's been something Becky and I talked about yesterday when we were driving. We've been looking at multiple different versions of Starlink. John Willis sent me a Instagram reel earlier today of Starlink Mini. If you haven't seen that yet, looks pretty cool. Fits in a backpack, little bit smaller than the size of like a 19-inch, 17-inch laptop, sorry. But I'm looking for something I can mount on the roof of the truck and drive around with, which I like. However, and I did mention this before, but this week's little piece of tech bite out of the Faraday cage is Starlink has just launched its 100th cellular satellite. So very, very quickly, we're going to have 100% cellular coverage in North America, at least via Starlink satellite. So if it's something you're interested in, check it out, folks. I'm kind of stoked about it. You know, I had somebody share quite a funny story with me this week where they set up Starlink at their work because their local internet provider was absolute trash, and the person lost their shit because they said Elon Musk was spying on them. I'm not going to use names because I didn't get the permission to share the story, and I realized that. But what do you think your ISP is doing, right? Anyway, moving right along. Next is This Week in the Workshop, where I give you a weekly recap of all the shit I have managed to accomplish for accountability and inspiration, I hope. I have not been very good recently at taking photos of things and posting them on Instagram. We have just been busy, balls to the wall, getting shit done because, again, I'm getting ready to head out on another 1 week trip. But I did get quite a bit done this week, so let me share with you. First off, right after I left last Thursday's show, I went out and checked on my rain barrels because I'd hooked them up. 2 IBC totes. The one in the back was just about full, and it finished filling later on that night. My bypasses still haven't shown up, so that kind of sucks. The one out front should have been full. However, I didn't check the drain valve, and the cover on the drain valve was loose. So I know this should go without saying, if you buy an IBC tote, check the drain valve. Enough said. So it leaked all over the ground, but I still got 3/4 of an IBC tote full in that rain and topped it up with what came in the last couple of days. We hired a company. I met a guy at Home Depot the other day, reminded me of when I was getting started, and we hired him to come in and pressure wash the play area in the south location. And I think we're going to get him to do some more work going forward. Did a great job. The cost was reasonable. So it's just nice to be able to outsource this kind of stuff. The staff meeting went awesome. We took a group photo. Not everybody was there, but we have 45 staff between the 3 locations. It's pretty friggin' awesome. I was blown away. It was just great getting to chat with all the, I was going to say girls. We got a couple of dudes that work for us too. So there you go. I meant earlier in the evening, I saw who showed up. Beth Emily said, "I'm so glad you found Tilly last week." Me too. There was some excitement during Sunday evening show. Becky decided that she was going to come on with me, which was awesome. And at the very end of the show, we get a phone call from an elderly lady. We actually put out quite a substantial reward for the return of Tilly in case somebody had grabbed her or something. And this old lady called and she said, "Hey, I see your dog. She's out on the dirt road heading toward the dump. She won't come to me. Come on out and pick her up." And Becky went out, and I was on speakerphone with her because I couldn't get up in time. And Becky, I was hollering because Tilly's my girl, and she came to my voice, and the old lady would not take a dime for it. We offered multiple times, and she wouldn't. So to the lady who called to let us know, thank you. So in other words, yes, Tilly was found, and 2 nights she was gone. I'm reinforcing the gate for now, and when I get back from Nova Scotia, I'm building a secondary gate. 2 is 1, 1 is none. Yeah, anyway. Sunday Night Live with Becky was a hell of a time. If you missed it, the replay is all over the interwebs. Becky, the next few Sunday evenings will be laid back. I've intentionally not lined up any interviews until the end of July because I'm flying to Nova Scotia. Then my girls are flying back from Nova Scotia. Then my sister and nephew are coming out for a week. And so by then it'll be the end of the month. I'm doing a live with Nicole at the end of July. And then going into August, we'll have a bunch of interviews. So it'll be fun. I did a flashlight review. If you haven't checked that out yet this week, man, I love flashlights, but this one was top notch. It came from Battle Box. I'm not going to spoil it, but man, it was a hell of a flashlight. Picked up 3 electric stoves in 3 days. We were hey, Homestead Medical. I was thinking about Chuck today. I was driving along thinking, I don't know why I do this. I must be twisted. I'm not really sure, but I was driving along thinking, hey, I've got a pretty damn good first aid kit in the back of my truck, thanks to Chuck Peoples. And I just thought all of a sudden, I was like, man, you know, it's good to have that tourniquet. I never thought about the importance of having a tourniquet until all of my medical friends kept harping on the fact that it's good to have tourniquets. And, you know, all those years I ran the handyman business and didn't have a tourniquet. Well, anyway, that's most likely the thing that you would use to save somebody's life out of your first aid kit, I'm going to guess. And if I'm wrong, Chuck, throw me under the bus there. But I was driving along today thinking how happy I was to have a brand new tourniquet ready to go in the back seat of my truck. So there you go. Finished painting at the 12 unit. This is crazy, but we got 4 units in the 12 unit coming available for the end of July and a rental house all at once. 3 of them are already spoken for. My daughter and son-in-law are moving into the other rental house. So right now we're going to have 2 at the end of the month. Simple as that. This is the time of year, you know, when rentals get really busy. Everybody wants to move before school's back in. So end of July tends to be the month where everybody's like, whoa, and November as well. Nobody wants to move over Christmas or the winter. So you tend to see, for me, July and November are the busiest months of people moving. Usually get a couple in August too, but it's usually July. I ordered some more shit for my truck since the factory headlights are woefully inadequate on the Ram 1500. The halogen ones are almost like a candle. They suck, and I really missed my headlights. I bought the brightest road legal LED headlights I can get. So they're going to get installed when I get back from Nova Scotia. I ordered a light bar for inside the grill and 2 auxiliary lights because I can't get a very wide light bar on that Ram with the recessed grill. So we're going to point 2 auxiliary lights out toward the ditches for night driving when there's no vehicles around, because wildlife is an absolute menace here. And to be able to see into the ditches after dark on the prairies is a godsend. Installed a dishwasher and a bunch of shelves at the daycare, which was great. And one more thing, you know, I always say small, minuscule improvements. I'm always looking to improve things. One thing. So if you have a system for putting things together, whatever that happens to be, and there is something that is very repetitive and takes a lot of time, almost guaranteed you're going to be able to find yourself a way to automate that. And the last few weeks, I've been trying to do that with my content creation. And one thing that I've committed to do, and I've done really well for the last 2 months, was to make sure that every link that I discuss in these shows are in the show notes. And they have been. And I realized it takes me about 10 minutes to compilate all of those links, put them in the descriptions, and be done. Now, that's only 10 minutes, but it's still 10 minutes. So I said, I bet you there's a Google Chrome extension. And sure enough, there is one called Copy All Tabs. And it just takes a screenshot, or it puts onto the clipboard every URL for all of your tabs at once, copy and paste into the description, done. Putting that little light up right there. One more thing about getting just a little bit better. I finally modified my desk. You can't really see a difference here. I most certainly can. So before, I have 3 monitors, and I'm going to show you. They were kind of on about like maybe a 20-degree angle, so I kind of had to turn my head a lot to see them. Now everything is like almost flat. I have them perfectly out front. The webcam right here. It took me a little bit of work. Anyway, enough said. I'm tooting my own horn for something simple and foolish, but there you go. So modifications. Remember, 1% better every week, folks. That's what we strive to do. And speaking of that, let's move on to the next segment. Hang on. I think we need a little sip of apple pie moonshine. What do you guys think? Tim, that was more than a sip. Whew, that was good. I love that apple pie moonshine. All right, moving right along to food for thought. A lot of these segments come from Chris Dixon through and through. This one didn't, though. This one actually came from Porterhouse. If you guys know Porterhouse and Teal, he had a live stream a couple of nights ago that said 2024 is halfway over. And I thought, holy shit, I have been busy. I didn't realize it was halfway over. We need to talk about that for a minute. So food for thought is going to be my segment where I discuss something. And it's a way to kind of interject some things that are top of mind or priority to myself and share with you guys. 2024 is 50% over, folks. Have you looked at your goals? How are you doing? I've been busy, but as they say, a one-person wallpaper hanger is busy too, but is it getting a lot done? I don't know. Washing machines are busy. Are they getting a lot done? They make a lot of noise. I don't know. Have you been busy? Good. Have you been busy on the right things? I hope so. I didn't know if I had been, but I want to tell you something. Back a few months ago, a couple of months, in around February, March, I decided to start using Google Calendar, and I've stuck with it. It's the first time I've been able to because I have it linked to my phone and to my laptop and to my PC. And I earmarked every day of the week for something. And each of those days corresponds with goals that I have for the year. And that has forced me, or unconsciously got me to work on my goals that I wasn't even thinking about. So I'm going to share with you guys my goals, but I want, if anybody actually, whoever's out there and wants to share a goal that you've been working on this year, because remember, 2024 is 50% over, folks. Holy shit. We are on the downhill slope heading toward old man 2024, heading toward baby 2025. And who knows how many cycles around the old sun that we get. And so make it a best year, right? Here we are. All right. So these are some of my goals, and I will give you, again, my update on how things are going. But develop my Amazon Influencers program immensely. Something I started balls to the wall with, did nothing with for the last 3 months, started seeing some real growth in it, and uploaded like 15 videos the other day. Picked up some information from my good buddy Brian at the Lots Project. I'm going to join a Facebook group because I believe there's a lot of money to be made on the Amazon Influencers program right now, and I'm going to make it. Number 2, continue to put out one top-notch review video every single week. Succeed mostly, except when I was in Tennessee, but that was part of the plan. But my review videos are getting better. I'm really happy with how they've turned out. How about this goal? Get the property in Tennessee livable for Mom and I, Becky and I. Guess what? 100% succeed, man. Holy shit. Love it. Find a minimum of 4 more sponsors that pay really good affiliate commissions. Not so successful on that one yet, but I'm working on it. I have been working on one. I've got 2 or 3 more that I'm really interested in dealing with. Get below my goal weight and stay there. Making some headway right now, guys. I've been really quiet. I've actually stayed out of the Camp Hope page right now. Not because I don't. Anyway, I'm doing good. I will share more as time goes on. Let's leave it at that. This one is a big, hairy, audacious goal. Have a prepper-wide known call-in show by the 10th anniversary on terrestrial radio. I just want to. How about build my own hardware store? Working on it. We've got plans for it. Got a bunch of stuff that I'm moving around. The entire summer revolves around putting together that hardware store in the backyard. Develop a storage space for leftover lumber. Boom, that's done. And I've decided to expand that. We're going to put a storage area for firewood in there. Pretty excited about that. I'm such an old man, guys, but I love it. Patreon develop. Yep, that's happening. 2 videos a month there. Absolutely. It's happened every month so far, I think. Finished putting together my Get Home bag. Hell yeah. Love my Get Home bag. Lived out of it for the first month I was in Tennessee. And the thing's awesome. Made some changes when I got back, but I'm very happy with it. I only take it on very long trips at this point. Now, if you've heard, I've heard Amy Dingman say this. I've heard Nicole Sauce say this, but here's the deal. Goals change throughout the year. And one of my focuses changed immensely this year. And you'd be like, why, Tim? Why? Anyway, become a bigger part of the daycare. And what does that mean? Well, I'm not going to lie. Halfway through last year, we wouldn't have seen where we are today. Even in October last year, when we launched the building of the next daycare, I didn't think we realized how incredible this journey was going to be. But it is. And I have realized that a huge part of what is paying all of our bills and then some handsomely, I need to be a big part of that, because it's not fair to Miss Cook to have to be shouldering that entire burden. Yes, I'm into property management. Yes, I'm into content creation, but I'm also into the daycare, and I need to be more into the daycare. So what does that mean? Well, first off, it's meant for this year, for this part of the year so far, is going to Lloydminster 1 day a week. What it means going forward is probably 2 days a week, or 3 days every 2 weeks, something like that. It means running management training for my young Gen Z managers, which Hell, man, I love it. I haven't done management. I haven't done management training in years, and I am just stoked every week to tear into that kind of stuff. It means doing renovations and upgrades where I can. It means outsourcing and managing projects to other companies when I can do that. And it means centralizing as much as possible. And I'll geek out on that on a Sunday night show sometime. But, I'm looking at, I got all kinds of cool, you know what? I'm just going to throw them out there. Again, big, hairy, audacious goals, right, folks? So number one, I'm implementing a bulk storage program for the daycare so that we can buy all the dry goods. Our daycare, the big one, is dairy-free, nut-free, almost vegetarian. I think we can use chicken. That's about it. But we use a lot of dry ingredients. And so what I want to do is have large storage containers for them, buy in bulk once a month, stock up and have it. Kind of a prepper idea for it. I also have this crazy dream at some point, if we continue to expand, of purchasing kitchen facility space in Lloydminster and opening up maybe a commercial kitchen that'll allow us to feed all of our daycares. Who knows, 3, 4, 5 of them at one point. Outsource maybe to other daycares as well, and maybe do some like DoorDash, Uber Eats kind of, I don't know. Anyway, through the roof, who knows what could happen. We're also talking, we might hire like a speech therapist or occupational therapist full-time at some point to travel amongst our daycares. The sky's the limit. But either way, I need to be a big part of that. So that is the big area where my goals have grown. So if you guys have goals, remember, it's okay to change them. It doesn't mean I'm not going to succeed, so I'm going to pretend like I didn't set that goal. No. It just means, I guess it's a way of looking at your life with the spaghetti method that I talk about when building a business. Throw things at the wall and see what sticks. Well, again, what have I told many, many folks? When building a business, when doing content creation, do all the things and then figure out which things make you the money and then do more of those things and more of those things. And that's the approach you take with your goals too. The things that give you the biggest return for your investment, keep doing them. So folks, 2024, halfway over. What the hell have you done this year? I know I hope I've done a bunch. Could I do more? Absolutely. My ass still sleeps in a lot of mornings. Why? I don't really know, but I'm not a 4 a.m. kind of guy getting up, but I've been getting all my shit done and I'm happy with it. So there you go. Let's go back to the delinquents in the workshop chat. Homestead Medical says, you are right, sir. And that is Chuck saying that oh man, there we go. Go back to the first aid kit and I can pull out, you're able to save somebody's life really, really quickly by cutting off the flow of the blood with a tourniquet super quick. Simple as that. That is the thing that will save somebody's life the quickest out of your first aid kit. Number 2, Appaloosa says walking 1 kilometer. That's 0.6 of a mile for my metrically challenged friends every morning before work. Good for you. Appaloosa also says, meet one famous guy in my store. Check. Oh, geez. That quite impressed my son-in-law the other day. Pippin, already clocked in at 4 a.m. most days. Good for you, brother. It's not that I'm not an early morning guy. I don't know. It is what it is. I've enjoying sleeping lately. Getting all the shit done, but I'm enjoying sleeping. There you go. That's my little, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Confession of the evening. All right, next. Where do we go from here? We go to...
It's the apocalypse. End of days. The judgment day, the end of the world, my friend.
Let's dig into the community mailbag. After all this time, I have realized that I have this labeled the community mailbag. It's really supposed to be the community nail bag because it's a play on the workshop. But either way, we're going to reach into the community nailbag/mailbag. We're going to see what the community sent me this week regarding information. We're going to talk about a couple of the polls I ran on the YouTube community tab. I'm really enjoying them. Thank you guys for taking part in that. A lot of fun. All right. Number 1, this one was a boostergram from Fountain. If you don't know what Fountain is, that's okay, but it's a really cool podcast platform, I guess, that you can tip creators and listeners on. Bitcoin Viking says, AM radio gave me some of my fondest memories. When I was a kid, I'd spend hours in the dark when I was supposed to be sleeping, turning the dial on an old AM radio, seeing how far I could find stations. I love that. I do that now with my shortwave radio every so often, but once a year I'll haul it out, I'll lay in bed and I'll be like, honey, do you mind? No, don't worry about it. And I just sit there and tune in. And I got stuff from Australia and New Zealand one night. There's something magical about that kind of stuff. I grew up listening to AM radio. More so, I grew up listening to talk radio. And I talk about it all the time about how much I enjoy it. And just that whole thing. I love it. So AM radio is great. It's definitely going by the wayside. I talked about that a lot. I'll be sad, but I totally get it. I'm a free market kind of dude. So Bitcoin Viking, thanks for sharing the thoughts on AM radio. This one, the rest of these are from YouTube. This one comes from Bass Pig, and it's in regards to a video I did on diesel generators. And I mentioned how when I was a kid, diesel was cheaper. And I didn't know why at the time. And a couple of people filled me in. If you haven't heard this, it's interesting. Diesel always used to be cheaper than gasoline because it was lower on the refractory scale and took less processes to make. That was until the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, stepped in and forced them to lower the sulfur in diesel, which caused the refining process to get much more expensive and caused the price of diesel to surpass that gasoline. In case you're wondering, environment. There you go. All right. Next, Rasmus Summer Nielsen says, this was in regards to last week on This Week in Prepping. I talked about over in the UK how there were going to be speed limiters government mandated on vehicles and how absolutely nothing could go wrong at all. And this person said, you mean, and I'm going to bust their balls. I am, because this came in on a short, and they said, you mean they could lower the speed limit 10 kilometers an hour, help the environment, not go below that, because if you did, it would be silly. The government would be doing it, not the car manufacturers. They said speed limiters should have no effect on that if you already drive legally. I have so many problems with that. It's not even funny. So no real reason to mix those two things together. In other words, I should not have conflated mandated slower vehicles with saving the environment. Anyway, whatever, conflating. But it would cost a lot of money from speeding tickets and other traffic violations that would be avoided. So here's the deal. This person said, if you drive legally, it should have no effect on you. Bullshit. I can think of 100 reasons why a person might speed. The least of which not being trying to get away from somebody. Now, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And you can use exceptions to fight against many, many different instances out there. And I am not going to take a stand on a lot of them, but the exception in this instance needs to deal with the rule. And the exception is, at times you need to be able to speed, right? Cabot Porter nails the nail on the head and says, if you think the problems we create are bad, just wait until you see our solutions. I'm going to introduce one better. If you think the problems we create are bad, just you wait until you see government mandated solutions, because they are always, always worse. Cabot says, you know what? I'm just going to retire tonight and let Cabot run the rest of the show, because these are great comments. They said, they may seem inefficient and feckless at times, but your representatives in Washington just want what's best for you. I'm sorry. Oh my God. My heart almost skipped a beat there. Assuming you're a major corporation, otherwise you're pretty much screwed. Yep. In the words of Ronald Reagan, the scariest words in the world are, I'm here from the government and we're here to help. Oh my God, yes. Carson says they do it to us truck drivers due to cleaner air, even though we have so much emissions crap on our new trucks. All right. Somebody posted a video the other day from Ontario, and it was a solid line. It was 2 lanes, a solid line, and there was 4 tractor trailers side by each, one on the shoulder, one passing on a solid line. That kind of shit wouldn't happen there, except that the Ontario government, in their infinite wisdom, governs all transport trucks to 105 kilometers an hour. The speed limit's 100. Everybody does 105 and nobody can pass. It is miserable, and it causes road rage. It causes accidents. It causes, in some ways, I think, more use of fuel. It causes things to be, anyway, 100 reasons why that's a bad idea. So Rasmus, I politely decline to agree with you. There are so many reasons why government solutions don't work. There are legitimate reasons where a person may need to go over the speed limit. And beyond that, there's the choice of freedom. That's what it comes down to. And, if I want to speed and I'm going to get a ticket and the government's going to spend my money for me, well, I guess I got to deal with it, don't I? But, oh boy, Timmy, get down off your hobby horse and move right along. The next one comes from Varon Batra. And they said, this is so relatable. This was from a video I did from a few years ago about my battery storage situation. They said, I forgot my AAA batteries inside a small toy car, despite it was laying in front of me all the time. It never occurred to me that I could put rechargeable batteries in the toy. Finally, they did. A few days later, the toy broke. Before throwing it out, I unscrewed the battery compartment to get the batteries out. Now, here's the thing. The terminology in this, there might be a language barrier or something, but what they ended up doing was said, since then, I just take a picture and tag it as batteries. So number one, I think they had two thoughts in here. First, it was, I didn't think about using rechargeable batteries in toys. Okay, cool. But number two, when the toy breaks, this person was tempted to throw it out without taking out the rechargeable batteries. So that the tip that they shared was they took a picture of it and they tagged it as batteries in their phone. So they created a folder called batteries, and wherever they put rechargeable batteries, that's where they put it. I loved that idea because I forget all the time where I put rechargeable batteries. There you go. All right. What do we got? Lone Canadian says, unintended circumstances. Sometimes intended, but mostly unintended. Correct. Pippin, left lane is for 80 mile an hour. Get out of the way. It's the passing lane. Geez, in Florida, the 80 mile an hour was the right lane. Holy shit, man. I'm not kidding. I think it was the I-95 was the fastest I've driven in the continental United States was in Florida. Carson says 25 years on the road, so I'm not capable of making sound decisions. Fair enough. Let Big Brother take care of it for you. All right. Next, this was a question from Jake, and this was in regards to my video on inverter generators. This is a question I've never been asked, and I wanted to answer, or at least attempt to answer. Can you do an aftermarket rectifier / inverter for an open frame generator that doesn't have a built-in inverter instead of buying a new inverter generator? So the reason I brought this up is because not that I'm aware of. And I think if you could, I think it would cost more money. But a solution I've come up with, and well, no, I didn't come up with it, but I've heard of it in multiple occasions in the past. But what I would do is if you have a battery bank, solar or not, or if you have some car batteries, I would create your own little battery bank. I would charge that with the nasty, dirty power off of a non-inverter generator, and then use a pure sine wave inverter to tap into that power. That's what I would do. I just think it gives you more redundancy. I don't think I want to get into modifying generators or adding pieces on, but interesting nonetheless. If anybody has seen an aftermarket rectifier / inverter for a generator, I'd love to see it. Maybe there's a simpler way to do it, but I'm just thinking battery bank, again, Stephen Harris come up twice. If you don't know who Stephen Harris is, the dude hasn't been on the Survival Podcast in a lot of years, but he is probably the guy I learned the most from about backup power, fuel storage, and the works. He used to be on the Survival Podcast all the time. And if you type in Stephen Harris on the survivalpodcast.com and go back and listen to all his episodes, they're coming on a decade old now, but they're some of the best I've ever heard. And he used to have the submarine theory. And that was run your generator during the day, charge your battery banks, go to bed, turn your generator off so some crackhead doesn't jump the fence and steal your generator, and then quiet sipping off those batteries. In other words, nice clean power. Enough said. There you go. All right. And I ran 3 polls so far this week. They were a lot of fun. They were, anyway, let me go into them here. Which rechargeable battery? That was the question I asked. In other words, what is your go-to choice for rechargeable battery? We got 75 votes. The only 2 that I included that are worth anything here, 18650, 31% of people said that's their go-to. Now, that was higher than I thought. I own a couple 18650s, but I only own them because they came with flashlights or other gear that I bought. AA, still over 55%. I mean, that is the generic battery of choice across the planet. And I love them. I'm going to have a hard time ever going away from AA batteries. All right, next. I like this one. This came in second. We had 74 votes on it, and it was Swiss Army knife versus multi-tool. And it wasn't even close, folks. If this was 1985, I bet most everybody would have said Swiss Army knife. But 8% said Swiss Army knife. 92% said multi-tool. And yes, I would vote multi-tool as well. And finally, have you ever had an unexplained encounter? I was hoping to get some cool stories out of this one. I got a lot of votes, but no stories. 12% said yes in the woods. 24% yes in the sky, and 61% said no. I'd love to hear about some unexplained encounters that you may have had in the past. Simple as that. There you go. All right, moving right along. Let's look back at the delinquents in the comments here. We got Carson said, oh yeah, we got that one already. Carson says, that's who says I can't make sound decisions, the Gestapo. Yep, that's it right there. And Byron Roberts says, you need a Swiss Army knife for drinking wine. Yep, because ain't nobody got a corkscrew around their house anymore. Well, maybe they do. I don't know. But yeah, there's some things, I guess, that a Swiss Army knife can do. Maybe, I don't know, that a multi-tool can't. But boy, I'd be hard-pressed to do it. So I wasn't sure how this evening was going to go. We made it through most of the notes in an hour and a half. And so here's a new segment for this week. There you go. I've done this multiple different ways in the past. This is the Battle Box. If you guys don't know what Battle Box is, well, anyway, I think I'm going to set up an affiliate with them. I haven't yet, but I buy these with my own money every month. Now, my kids used to be into blind boxes, blind bags. I know people who order mystery boxes and they're complete and utter junk. Well, this is my fourth, maybe fifth Battle Box, and so far every one of them has exceeded my expectations in what I was going to get. I did a live stream once where I just opened the Battle Box. That was fun. I did a video, pre-recorded, and I thought, hey, why not make the Battle Box opening a monthly segment on This Week in Prepping? And I love this stuff. So let's open it up. Let's see what we get. I haven't seen it yet. I intentionally don't read because they send me an email that says what's going to be in it. I don't want to know ahead of time. So you can't really see. I'm going to set the box here. I'm going to open it like this away from me so that I can't see into it. And I'm going to reach in. I'm going to pull things out as we go. So here we are. This is Battle Box Mission Brief 112, Adventure Delivered. And if I open this up, it would spoil the whole box for us, so we're not going to do that. This week's review on the flashlight, it came from Battle Box. Yes, it costs a bit more to get it sent to Canada. It's worth it for me because I get a ton of gear that I can talk about and I can review and play with because I'm kind of a gearhead, a gear junkie. So let's check out what we get this month. Well, let's start with right here. What is this? So this is a bag, and it says UTTY. Let's see what it says on here. Portable gear hanger, sports and recreation better managed. There we are. Here's the bag it comes in. I'll do my best to describe this for anybody on audio only. We'll probably edit this into its own video at some point. Let's open it up. Wow. All right. So we got a reflective webbing that looks pretty similar to a ratchet strap. It's got a hook on one end and some gear hooks like this that actually I see. Oh, these are actually kind of cool, folks. So I believe if you want, Tim, get on the camera. These are like double-sided coat hooks. You know, the ones where they look like an octopus that wants to fight. You stretch out this, not molly webbing, but it's like molly webbing. You stretch it out, make it like a clothesline. These can snap on it and you can hang gear up. I like it. Very, very small, condensed. I don't know if this would ever make it in my get-home bag, but it would definitely be a really cool item to go camping with. So this is the UTTY gear hanging. Comes with a handy little bag and some clips and clamps and some webbing. So that's item number one right there. All right, let's see what we can pull out next. Oh, is that a knife? I don't want to open the knife yet. Let's see. Oh, maybe that is. All right, here we go. Here we go. Big winner, big winner. Chicken dinner. What is this? Ooh, this is a knife glide sharpener from Camelus. There we are. Bring that in nice and close so you can check that out. This is the knife sharpener, shear sharpener, hook sharpener. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Got 26, 30, 45 degree, carbide, multi-angle, all kinds of neat little things. This may end up going in my bag. I have a small one that's not great. We're going to test this out. What else does it have? A torque screwdriver. Why the hell it has a torque screwdriver? Somebody can tell me. Maybe for taking apart knives, I guess. That's very well made, very substantial, very heavy. Very cool. All right, what do we got next? There we go. What is this? Heaven's Harvest. Heavens to Betsy. What in the world is this? Heaven's Harvest, non-pollinated, non-hybrid, open-pollinated, non-GMO heirloom vegetable seeds. Holy shit, that is cool. Check that out. an heirloom bag of, it's basically like a seed bank. That's really cool. Heavy. It all feels like it's vacuum sealed. It's from Heaven's Harvest in Blairsville, Georgia. HeavensHarvest.com. Seeds by God's design. We're not opening this up right now. We're leaving this closed. That is friggin' awesome. Love it. All right. What's next, folks? Reaching in here. Oh, I feel something. Looks like a tin of cigarettes. No, I'm not sure. It has an elastic band on it. Here we are. Zoom in, and it says, let's take the band off it. It is a fire making kit. I like that. This is made by Fiberlight. Includes Fiberlight fire starter and a Fiberlight Bic lighter. Check that out. Oh my God. I don't want to spill that too much. Whole bunch of like wax covered tinder with a lighter built in and a little tin to light it on. I like that quite a bit. And an elastic to keep it together. I like, actually, I've never been disappointed with one of these gearboxes yet. There's the fire kit from Fiberlight. All right, what's next, folks? We're getting low here. All right. So I thought I was signed up for the Knife of the Month Club. I was not. So I think I overspoke on one of my live streams a while back. I thought I'd subscribed for the Pro Plus knife. I was only on the Pro. However, the first couple of weeks came, or the first couple of boxes came with what I thought was the Knife of the Month. So that's why I got, I guess, confused. So here we are. This looks like, this comes from Fox Knives. We use my handy dandy neck knife from Patrick Rohrman of MT Knives to open up the box. All right, here we go. We got We Make It Sharp, foxknives.com. There we are. Open that up. Oh, hang on. Another piece of tape right here. All right. There we are. We're going to open this up. Handy dandy bag. I like that. Ooh, light. So that looks like Fox Racing, kind of. We'll open this up a little bit more here. I always like getting knives in the mail. Always fun to try them out. Oh, I like the color. It's like desert tan, yeah. Oh, watch this blade right here, guys. That is like, it's got kind of a Spyderco look to it. It's got some knurling. I don't even know if you can call it knurling, but it's a really nice, it almost feels like ceramic hand finish. You got relief there to take some of the weight out of the knife. You got a breakdown lock right there. I like that quite a bit. So there we are. Oh, very spring-loaded. Watch, see if we can show you here. There we are. Love it. Oh, can't wait to play with that. I had to open this because I'm leaving tomorrow and I wanted to show you guys anyway. So this is kind of fun. This is the stuff I get every month. There's one more thing in this box yet. And I wanted to read that there. Carson says, Billy Bond swears by Heaven's Harvest, 100% germination. Well, I'm going to have to test them out. That's good. And Byron says, looks handy for camping. A firelight right there. All right. What do we got left in here? All right. This must go with my spice bottles from Ruck and River last month. We're going to open this up. That might have been the thing I was the least excited about out of any of the boxes, was those little spice bottles. Not because I hated them, just because I ain't going to use them. Simple as that. So here it is. It says Ruck and River camping table. There we go. All right. Try not to leave too much dead air here for you folks. Well, now this is kind of cool. Well, there's the empty box. You don't need to see that again. So I would give you, they have a nice logo and the stuff looks like it's built really well. It's got kind of a military canvas look to it. Oh yeah. So it's a storage bag. I'm not going to attempt to assemble this while we're talking here, but I believe this stretches over the table. And I don't know if it's carbon fiber, pretty lightweight table. Rather interesting. I will assemble this. I'll do a video on this guy. This is interesting enough to do a video on it. So, all right. So let's see. I always like to pick my favorite and my least favorite item out of all of the different things that came this month. So let's go with, oh man, I don't know. I got to say, all right. Let's go with, for my least favorite, the fire starting kit. Simply because I've got a bunch of these. These are cool. This is handy. I don't hate it. It's just probably my least favorite out of the bunch. Now, wow, what is my favorite? Man, there's a bunch of cool things here. This is going to sound really goofy. I like these. So let's do a quick little recap. So number one, the fire kit. Yeah, it's probably my least favorite. The sharpener looks good, but I won't know until I test it. But it's probably going to find a place in one of my get home bags. These are really cool. The gear hanging thing. I'm actually going to test this out in the shop just for the hell of it. I think this might be my favorite, might not be. I'm going to withhold judgment on the gear camping table until I try it. It's a little bit weird in its design. Leave it at that. How can you go wrong with yet another knife? Fox knives. That one's friggin' awesome. I don't even know what the retail price is on it. And this right here from Heaven's Harvest. Yeah, that's really cool. Anyway, so I hope you guys enjoyed looking at that. Once a month when this comes in, I'm going to open it up and we'll do it together as a segment on this show. You guys get to see some gear. Then you might, maybe we'll end up doing a vote at some point where I'm like, hey, folks, which one of these items would you like to see me review the best out of all this gear? So that's what came this month in Battle Box. I always love opening them up, and it's a lot of fun to open them with you. So I hope you enjoyed that. And like I said, I'll probably set up an affiliate with it eventually if it's something folks are interested in. So beyond that, what a great night, guys. Thanks for coming in with me. Thanks for hanging out on a Thursday night. I love doing this show. I'm going to do my best to have a Thursday live show next week. I'm going to be in Nova Scotia. I'm taking my laptop with me. It may be a bit of a pared down show simply because I just don't have I'm flying and I can't take all the gear with me. So there's that. No Sunday live stream this week. I'm going to be flying. There's nothing there. I may have something in the works, like I did that unlive live stream last time. There'll be something here for you, I hope. No guarantees, but there will be. I will be back next Thursday night for sure. And then I'll be flying next Sunday. So there'll be that. I'll keep you filled in. I'm not going anywhere, but it's going to be a lot of fun to head out east, come back, and then back balls to the wall at everything I do. So thanks for being here for me, folks. Thanks for coming in. If you find any interesting articles this week, send them my way at therealtimcook@gmail.com. And as always, you know the routine. Stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.